So, einen schönen guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren, zum zweiten Teil der Vormittagssession am dritten Tag der LearnTech Exchange. Mein Name ist Peter Henning, ich bin Mitglied des LearnTech Kongresskomitees. Ich führe Sie durch die kommenden beiden Sessions und trage zur zweiten Session dann sicherlich auch selber etwas bei. Zunächst aber unsere erste Session, die wird Ihnen heute geliefert von zwei verschiedenen Fraunhofer-Instituten. Das eine ist das Fraunhofer USB in Karlsruhe und das zweite ist das Fraunhofer FIT in Schloss Birlinghofen, beides exzellente Adressen. Ich darf in der Reihenfolge der Vorträge ganz kurz vorstellen. Zum einen Herr Alexander Streicher. Alexander Streicher ist ein langjähriger Freund, Projektpartner von uns. Er ist am Fraunhofer IOSB Mitarbeiter in der Abteilung Interoperabilität und Assistenzsysteme, befasst sich mit adaptiven Lernsystemen und künstlicher Intelligenz. Danach werden Sie einen Vortrag hören von Professor Dr. Wolfgang Prinz, Professor Wolfgang Prinz, PhD, hätte ich sagen müssen. Er ist Institutsleiter am Fraunhofer FIT. Seine Forschungsthemen sind kooperative Softwaresysteme und vor allen Dingen Blockchain, eine ganz wichtige Sache für den Bereich Bildung. Ich will nicht zu viel Zeit wegnehmen und gebe gleich weiter an Alexander Streicher. Alex, du hast den Bildschirm.
Ja, hallo zusammen, auch von meiner Seite. Professor Henning, vielen Dank für die sehr schöne Vorstellung. Jetzt im Folgenden wird der Vortrag, so wie es angekündigt, auf Englisch dann stattfinden. Hello everybody, welcome from my side as well. Thank you, Professor Henning, for the very nice introduction. And we'll start right with the first presentation. So you should see the title slide. Could someone please give me a feedback if that's the case?
Passt.
Okay, super. Okay. Yes, hello everyone. I want to show you our work on learning environments of the future, enabling sustainable distributed e-learning environments. My name is Alexander Streicher. I'm a computer scientist at the Fraunhofer Institute of Optronics, System Technologies and Image Exploitation IOSB in Karlsruhe, Germany. Together with other partners, we work on a solution to build integrated learning environments, integrating different kinds of learning or assistance systems. The work of this talk has been done by multiple Fraunhofer institutes and our industry partner at Siemens IT. Yeah, as you may already know, Fraunhofer is for applied research. We bring applied research to private and public enterprises, and we are over 29,000 employees working in 75 institutes for all kinds of different research areas. I myself am from Karlsruhe. This is the part in the bottom left. And our main location is there in Karlsruhe. My department works in intelligent assistance systems with focus on e-learning, computer simulations, and serious gaming. And my research are there similar as well. Here are pictures of some examples, what we do. And if you're free, have time, and you can look at the homepage. Okay. So the outline of my talk is first, I want to motivate and show you the challenges. Then I want to tell you about open tools, specification and standards. And next is the presentation of a middleware solution approach. And I think this fits perfectly to the theme of this session, because it tackles, in my opinion, how learning systems of the future should be designed, right? Typically, we have such a learning process. A user logs into the corporate or university learning environment. Of course, a single point of entry is wished, so to say, a single sign-on. This is on the left. However, sometimes or often the user has to log in at various systems. Here, the idea is that the user has a single login portal. And typically, each activity, each learning activity on the user's journey, his learning journey, is not done in a single system, but multiple systems, as seen at the bottom. You may recognize the learning management systems you may already know. The question is, how to get everything under one roof, how to integrate everything to make it sustainable for the future, right? And yeah, we propose to have something like a middleware, in the middle, which brokers all the different aspects of e-learning. When we look at our own installations or that of our partners and customers, we often see a very heterogeneous system landscape. Here's a list of some well-known learning management systems and their market share by the number of installations. As can be seen by this diagram, or the so-called squid diagram on LMS distribution, the market is very fragmented. It's big, has lots of players. And because of this, we typically expect multiple different systems. And you may have this situation as well in your own corporate environment or in the industry, that you have multiple learning management systems running. So the challenges are like this. LMSs such as Ilias or Moodle are often part of a bigger learning system landscape. Typically, it's heterogeneous and it has multiple kinds of systems. And bringing them together into one single all-in-one solution is too costly or often not possible because of grown or established structures, right? Also, there are different difficulties when talking about interoperability and migration of content or user information between those systems. For example, using SCORM to integrate other content into Ilias or Moodle does not feel that nice as having it as native content. And also, typically, migration of the user's progress is not possible or not that easy. It gets lost between system migration. For example, when you want to transfer this the progress between Ilias and Moodle. Of course, there are standards which could address that. But for some reason or another, they are often not implemented on full terms. And it also to be noted, there are some all-in-one solutions, but that's typically very costly and then closed source, which makes later migration problematic. Yeah, you may all know that. So let's think about a solution. We propose, or one solution approach could be to unite the different teaching learning technologies in a common infrastructure. Using the existing established standards to build a middleware which operates as a managing broker, which interconnects all your systems. And of course, using the interoperability standards. Two such standards are LTI, Learning Tools Interoperability, and Experience API, xAPI. You may already know that, right? And the next thing would be to make that all accessible via a normal web browser, because that is what the user is used to. Provide a single sign-on functionality, and at best, you should have an open architecture which glues together all your existing or new services, and it should run locally on the cloud. Okay, next I want to tell you about that e-learning standards set something before. Here's a list of notable e-learning interoperability standards. That is a subjective list from our perspective, from our Fraunhofer e-learning group, but you may know most of them. The most important one for me too is the ADL Experience API, the xAPI. As you certainly know, with xAPI, you can track learning experiences, and most learning management systems support xAPI. As you can see on the right, there are other tracking specifications as well. For example, it's the CMI profile or CALIPER analytics. And another important e-learning standard, I mentioned that, is the Learning Tools Interoperability, LTI. LTI allows you to interlink systems in such a way that you can directly reuse content from other systems and incorporate third-party content as well in your own e-learning course. Also, the user does not need to do further logins, but the authorization and authentication is done under the hood, so to say, by LTI via the Open Authentication OAuth standard. LTI is highly important for this very session, because for future learning systems, it is not feasible to export and import that stuff again, over and over again, but to link it and to make use of web services. LTI can help you with that. In our solution approach, we highly use xAPI and LTI. Other important specifications are QTI, Common Cartridge, CC, and LOM. I want to say that xAPI is related to the W3C activity streams specification, which most of the global players use for their experience tracking. Below you can see a timeline which has been developed by my colleague, Dr. Kraus from the Fraunhofer Focus. And as you can see, it started with SCORM. You may all know SCORM. But I did a line through here because, SCORM is rather outdated right now. So, let's have a look at LTI. LTI perfectly fits to a talk on learning systems of the future. Because, as I said before, you can reuse third-party content and link to other systems. The essence is that you interlink systems. LTI is the LMS Consortium specification on learning tools interoperability. It exists since 2010, and its newest version is version 1.3. And formerly, it was called 2.0, but they dropped that, and now it's 1.3. As you can see on the right, you have an LTI platform, for example, an LMS such as Moodle, and this system then acts as a consumer of other systems shared or linked content. On the other side, you have the LTI tools, which act as content provider. Technically, it's HTTP interlinking of LMSs or other LTI-compatible tools. Primarily, it targets authentication, and LTI allows the direct access to external content, this deep linking. And via LTI, the system exchanges user metadata and course metadata. Moodle and Ilias, for example, can act as LTI tools and platform. They can act as both. And if you are wondering how that looks like, technically, here you see an example of that JSON encoded LTI metadata. It's specifically a minimal example from LTI basic launch and the related open authentication signatures for the system-to-system, the secure system-to-system communication. Next, I want to say something about xAPI. It's from 2010, originating from a project called TinCan API, and that was the project name by the company Rustici Software. We had that talks already on the former LearnTex, great talks, and its newest version is version 0.3, I think, from 2016. The tracking data is encoded as JavaScript, as JSON, you can see on the right. And an example for an xAPI statement would be like this, and like a triple structure with actor, verb, object, and activity. Most system supports xAPI. You store them in, it's too quick, store them in learning record stores, and it's easy to implement. Regarding or when talking about xAPI, most just think about the tracking functionality, but there is much more. And I found a neat mind map by Biverse Solutions. I want to show you. The link is at the bottom. Please visit them. They are doing great work here. And xAPI is known as Experience API or TinCan API. It is based on statements consisting of actor, verb, object, result, context, and propriety extensions. And an object may be an activity or a statement. And the statement, so you can see it could be recursive, right? But there are other things like it's a specification. It came from the ADL consortium, and ADL is also the creator of SCORM. So, and when you look at the full mind map, you see that there are a lot of terms which circle around xAPI. You should know that when you're implementing xAPI. Okay, but have a look in your time at the link, please. Next, I want to talk about how some of these standards can be realized for interlinked e-learning worlds. A solution approach would be to bring the major standards in the middleware solution. Together with other Fraunhofer partners, we work on a solution to build integrated learning environments, integrating different kinds of learning or assistance systems. The involved partners and their logos are shown on the right, and the CLM project is oriented as a temple to depict that everything is under one roof. At the top, and as a user interface, is the FSOS web portal, which offers, amongst others, single sign-on and direct access to the attached tools. At the core in the middle is, as you know, the middleware. We call it the common learning middleware. It is mainly developed at the Fraunhofer in Berlin, and various other LTI compatible tools can directly be attached to the CLM. It acts as a broker and offers various functionalities such as managing online or offline tools, registering new tools, managing learning record stores, etc. We have attached different types of e-learning products, for example, virtual learning environments, learning analytics, dashboards, recommendation programs that tell the user what to look for and learn next, mobile applications such as the Fraunhofer Academy e-learning courses, various LMSs, and serious games, which could be web-based, but also native Windows applications. And we made or developed an own NTI wrapper for native Windows application there as well. Here's an application example because we have it up and running already. For future e-learning systems, we should have a central portal as an entry. That I think is crucial, right? In our case, we have our own portal. It's called Ephesus. Next, the courses should be curated using common cartridge standard, so it gets interoperable. And via the LTI standard I talked before, the course content can be accessed without switching the app. That is important. The user does not have to switch the browser, the tab, open new tabs, etc. But all the other tools are integrated in via LTI, and single sign-on happens under the roof. It's system-to-system communication. That's pretty much standard. And I think the future is in using standards. Standards and the middleware approach allow us to integrate a variety of services, for example, AI services. Next, we have a talk by Professor Henning at the session. Maybe we can discuss there further details. For AI, we study adaptive learning with a recommender system, learning analytics, adaptive difficulty, chatbots, etc. Currently, there are ongoing studies how to integrate AI as web services. This is supported by our standard-based middleware approach. Here you can see screenshots of some AI examples that we have done at Fraunhofer, namely a portal and recommender system, learning analytics, which tell about the user's learning progress, adaptive gamification, which offers dynamic difficulty adjustment or computes the need for assistance. This kind of adaptivity system also has RESTful web services, which make use of xAPI and AI. That makes it easy to integrate into other systems or applications. So easy for you to integrate AI in your system as well. We also offer a chatbot function, which you can ask learning-related questions, such as what to learn next. Another thing, surely we all use search engines to navigate through the World Wide Web, but there is no Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo for LMSs just yet. But for the future, we suggest to build LTI-based crawler. We have done this, and we call it a Findoo machine, find engine. It allows searching across LMS boundaries, offers to search in all LTI tools. So it's like just a Google for learning management systems. It is easy to integrate because it is LTI compatible and can act both as tool and platform. It offers advanced search functionality, for example, semantic search, and it includes a course authoring editor to quickly edit and curate your e-learning courses. So it uses this common cartridge standard. I want to conclude. Using standards is essential for sustainable e-learning environments because of ever-evolving heterogeneous corporate system landscapes. They evolve so quickly, and all of our customers always tell, okay, we have this new system and how to integrate that. One solution can be a middleware solution approach, which glues together those systems. It interconnects LMSs such as Ilias, Moodle, edX for decentralized learning environments. A middleware can integrate established tools and technologies, masquerading complexity. And we have a working application for courses by Fraunhofer Academy, government institution, and industry partners. So it's bringing those standards to life using this gluing middleware approach. The outlook is that we work on tools for data privacy, big topic here, and course management and activity management. And we want to integrate other advanced technologies from the XR domain, like augmented or virtual reality, to have this full learning experience. Okay. That's from my side. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions or comments, I would be happy to hear them. Thanks. Other references.
Okay, so there was one question in the chat, but this has been redrawn, as I see. Maybe this is the reason is for this is that you are going to the breakout rooms right after 12:15. So currently there are no questions in the chat, and
okay.
I therefore pass directly to Professor Wolfgang Prinz.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And thanks for the nice introduction. So what I would like to do now is to highlight another technology that we believe is quite relevant for the overall technology in learning environments. And then I would like to point you to a project that is currently undergoing on a European level, where we exactly need your input. And to make it even more bold, this is a project where you can provide input really on the future research agenda and also on the future funding of the European Commission. So stay tuned, and we need your input at the end. But let's start with another technology right at the beginning. And this is the whole technology on blockchain, which is also integrated overall in the system that my colleague just presented. And just to give you a short overview on what we are doing from our Fraunhofer Institute in the area of blockchain. So I'm from the Fraunhofer Institute for Applied Information Technology. And we are running the Fraunhofer Blockchain Lab, in which we develop a number of different blockchain applications. It starts with some basic tutorials, so also some learning, e-learning on blockchain, but also the development of use cases, the development of concepts together with our partners, and implementations. And among one of these implementations is exactly an implementation that addresses the whole learning environment. And this particular application addresses the question of how can we make educational certificates tamper-proof and easily verifiable. I mean, if you are in the learning environment and if you are in the learning business, I think you all have seen already that certificates are being copied, they are being exchanged, they are being modified. There are even some organizations whose business model it is to provide fraud certificates. Therefore, we need an environment in which we can prove the authenticity and the originality of a particular certificate. Now, you may have heard that blockchain is one possible solution for that. There are other solutions that exist, but blockchain, on the one hand, is quite a suitable solution for that because it can be run in a network of different providers, and it somehow also provides a sort of a standard that my colleague who gave the introduction to this session also emphasized already on very heavily and in a very nice way. So what are the user groups of such an application where we provide a service for tamper-proof certificates? On the one hand, it's the certification authorities. We talked to several authorities, and what they say is that some of them, they even run their own call centers to prove certificates. So they are being called whether a certificate that is being shown to them is currently whether it's correct or not. So this is not very often the case in the academic environment, but for some other institutions that provide certificates for people who are working in the construction area or any other areas, very often these certificates are just being copied or changed because it's valuable to do that in order to get a job or just to do a certain service on a construction area or other things. So you really can have a higher efficiency and you really can have an added value for that. For the certificate owner, it's one way to digitize all the certificates, but also to provide certificates on a higher level and really to have somehow a wallet of all the certificates available. I mean, we all have our lights folders at home in which we can store all our paper certificates, and then we start digitizing them by putting them on a scanner and creating some PDFs and circle that around. I mean, this is somehow old-fashioned and we need a more advanced solution for that. And then for the employer and the approval institutions, they need easy ways to do that somehow on an automatic level, not calling the university or looking at the original, which is in most often cases not done. We all trust the PDFs that are being sent to us. And maybe sometimes we trust them in the wrong way. So there should be an automatic way to prove these certificates, that this can be done already by the HR or by the employment system or in the background, and then you just see all the certificates provided by this particular user are correct. Therefore, we have developed a solution that covers the whole certification process. So it really starts from the process of course administration, participation management, the issuing of certifications, the wallets that can be handled by the users, and the HR support. So it's really a whole process that is being supported from the beginning to the end, in which the certificate creation on a blockchain is just a minor part. But all that also integrates in environments that have been presented already in the previous part. And here you see a little bit more detail about the technology and how we use blockchain there and why we use a blockchain there. Blockchain provides immutability. It provides us a way to store information in a way such that it is tamper-proof and that it cannot be changed. And it also provides us some way of access control. So in this sense, the blockchain becomes a notary of the overall certification process. And the advantages here is that this can be run in a network. This is not a service provided by a single provider, provided by a single certification authority. And if this certification authority, for example, goes out of the market, all the services are gone. No, the certificates that are stored here are being administered in a network. And within this network, they are accessible for everybody who has access. And that can then be all HR institutions, but it can also be somehow a kind of a public access, and our system provides that. So in one use case, you just get such an electronic certificate, and there's a web page on which you can prove the validity of this particular certificate. So these somehow in this whole architecture is actually the blockchain. It stores the different certificates, the fingerprints of these certificates or the hash code in a GDPR compliant way. And it also has some kind of access control by managing the authorities who are really eligible to provide the different certificates. So not everybody can just store a certificate there, only those who are somehow part of the community who are running this particular network. Now, this solution is available up and running now since 1 or 2 years, and I've reported about this already at the previous LearnTech conference. And in the meantime, there are several organizations who are grouping together to run this network on a blockchain, which is a consortia blockchain. So we are not running this on a public blockchain, because this is more cost intensive. And on the other hand, we all know this discussion about the energy intensity of such a public blockchain. So therefore, we decided to run that on a consortia based blockchain, which is currently being run by these institutions here. And you are really open and free to join us within this network, also to become a user of this network and make use of the overall thing. Please contact us in the end if you want to become, if you are interested, if you want to get a demonstration of the overall thing, and if you want to become member of this network and want to make use of this particular service. This leads us now with the overall discussion on this kind of blockchain and DLT infrastructures, really to the point that with these kind of technologies, societal changes are being involved. We are getting from a phase where we have more me-centric digitization, my company, my data, to collaborative digitization, where we are doing that together in networks to apply this new technologies. And I think this is really the big difference between just offering a company-centric certification service, where you can certify your certificates, really to something that we do in a network, and in other contexts we call that a machine economy. So we see here that new technologies arise, and that these technologies have a high impact on how we do business, and in particular also on how we do learning. And this leads me now to another point, which is learning software for the future that we run in the DEL4ALL project. The DEL4ALL project is a project that is being funded by the European Commission and where we are partner of together with a lot of other partners. You can make friends with these partners like Alex Gresh and John Domingue from Open University later on in the breakout session, where we would like to discuss with you where you see the future in learning software and where you see future technologies. What we are currently doing within the project is that we do collect different technology solutions, and where we try to gather them and where we try to build a recommendation for the European community on how they should establish and rephrase their policy for the future in e-learning. This also means that out of this policy, there may come out some funding programs. So your input is valuable also to frame future possible funding programs. One of these is, for example, learning based on AR and VR. Here you see some very old pictures. No? They actually from our institute. And you see from the hardware that people are using here that this is quite old. On the other hand, from the beginning on, AR and VR have been seen as a very good enabling technology, but they are now really coming into the business. So this is one technology. The other one that we have collected and where we collected some stories about and information about is serious games and education. This is also something where you can combine AR, VR and other technologies all together in these different technologies. These are just some examples. We come to how we collect them later on. Oops, sorry, that was the wrong direction. DEL4ALL now really has the ambition to support the development of this strategy for the European Union while unleashing the power of this digital transformation through disruptive potential and emerging technologies like AI and machine learning, mixed reality, blockchains, and serious games. But more are actually possible. This is just something that we started with at the beginning of the project, and actually based on the COVID crisis, this has changed a lot. So these were the technologies we started with, but through the COVID crisis, we also see that more technologies are probably needed, but not just technologies, methods, other ways to educate learners also. And the way we would like to get this information together is actually through this community consultation. And this is also why we would like to ask you to become part of this community. So we are looking here for educational institutions. We have the European Commission, we have research institutes, we have students and learners and societies who provide input. So altogether at the moment we have 87 experts, and we organized already 13 webinars and workshops, and more are coming up and more will follow, like this one, but also like other ones. And we are also doing interviews. So if you're interested really in providing us information through an interview, providing input through surveys, you will see later on a link on the webpage, but also here on the in the chat to participate in this surveys. So we also communicate with NGOs to get input, and also technology providers. And all that really then fits together, and this is something that we would like to do in the project, to get as much information as possible, to consolidate it, and to digest it in a way that we can provide policymakers like the European Commission input on how they should reorganize and how they should phrase the future approaches and their future policies on e-learning. So you see, we do this by creating a knowledge base. We are collecting practice examples. So at the moment we have 500 plus. Your practice examples are also welcome. So get in touch with the project in order to provide your particular input. And this is actually how we do it. You see it here from the particular slide. And the interviews that we did with the different people in the past, they gave us already some feedback. Now here you see somehow a word cloud on what we did in the past and what people have provided. Yeah, and this is where we see, well, people were talking about blockchains, they were talking about digital education, machine learning, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. So you see somehow the technologies that were original in the focus of the project proposal somehow are being validated by these interviews, but maybe more will come up, and here your input is really valuable and provided. And you see, these are some terms that come up in the past, and now we would like to make your active, and there will be a Slido poll now start in the chat. And it would be great if you would now answer some of the question, or answer the question, because your voice counts now. So what is the most important need when reshaping frontiers of the European educational landscape? So I would expect that now in the chat, there will be the questionnaire coming up, such that you can provide us your viewpoint on that. And then we see later on the particular cloud on that. No? So let's see, I think this should now come up now in the chat. Peter, this is coming up in the chat, I hope.
Frau Hallinger, können Sie die Umfrage starten?
There it is, it's coming up. Okay, so now you can provide your word. What is the most important need when reshaping frontiers of the European educational landscape? So please provide us your opinion here. So things are coming up now. You see it in the chat, like interoperability, blockchain, money, data protection, personalization. So we see already these are different. I just put up this slide here from what we got so far. So I'll show you here this slide. Feel free, interoperability. Yeah. Money becomes even larger now. Yeah. So we need more money to develop this. This is something that hopefully the European Commission in the end will provide then by research funds. Learning analytics, personalization. Yeah, I think this is also very important. This may also fit to the whole issue of AI and machine learning, really to provide more adapted ways of personalization. Adaptivity becomes larger. Yeah. Oh, no, it's becoming smaller. Interoperability is then winning again. Great. Yeah, thank you very much for your input so far. I think this is very interesting. Please continue to provide the input. You can have this somehow in a parallel screen to see what's going on there. And this also provides very valuable input for us. So what we have collected so far, and this is something that we will now also adapt with your input, is what you see here on the slide is really that we are working here in the area of blockchain, mixed reality, AI, ML, but also the development of skills. And these are relevant statements from the community that the education stakeholder skills needs to grow, that VAR can replace our traditional lab infrastructures, but they are not really equally affordable in different European countries. So you see, this is just a short snapshot on what we have gathered so far that we try to classify in different dimensions, like whether it relates to content production, teaching and learning delivery, assessment, or credentialing. So credentialing very much relates to the blockchain area, and other areas relate to the other areas over here. So this is really something that we would like get your input about, that we would like to discuss with you. And now it's your turn. You can ask questions, and I see there were already some questions that we can handle directly here within the chat, but also in the upcoming DEL4ALL future research agenda get-together room that has already been opened, and where further colleagues of the project like Alex Gresh from Malta, John Domingue from the Open University, myself, and also other colleagues like the coordinator Martel from Switzerland will participate in, and where you can provide your further input, and where we can discuss questions that you see here, like how can we make the whole education more resilient in the post-COVID area? What are the effectors that address us? And how do we imagine the future in 5 years from now? And up to here, I would like to thank you for your attention, for your participation in our short Slido questionnaire. And now I'm open for your questions before we then can all switch to the get-together rooms. So Peter, are there any interesting questions coming up that we can handle directly here?
Yeah, are indeed some questions which have come up. One of the interesting questions I deem very important is who to contact for an eventual participation in your network DEL4ALL.
In the DEL4ALL, there will be, my people will put up a contact link. There is a LinkedIn group by Verena Wottrich. She posted this already, and you will find also DEL4ALL on the webpage. But I think some of my colleagues can also provide a link in the chat so that you can get directly in touch with the coordinator of the project.
Okay, then there's another question which is probably best answered by Alex Streicher. There seems to be some misunderstanding because the question is, SCORM provides compatibility for publishing content to single learning management systems. xAPI supports interoperability between LMS and record stores. CMI5 combines these, question mark?
Oh yeah, CMI5, I'm not into that deep for CMI yet. So I have to forward that question to a colleague. The first part of the SCORM and the xAPI, okay, I think it's true. I'm trying to find the question here, but yeah, at the moment I'm not able to answer the CMI5 question.
Okay, but there seems to be a misunderstanding because xAPI is also something which is well directed to single learning management systems and not to the interoperability of learning management systems. Okay.
Yeah, right. That is correct.
Another question, are there courses to learn LTI or xAPI in order to transfer this into our organization?
Ah, that is a good question. On that slide where I talked about the interoperability standards, I think, or about xAPI, I mentioned that it could be hard or tricky to implement xAPI. The thing is, from our experience, it's best to look at the specification and the examples from the specification. I'm not aware, because I did none, I'm not aware of good tutorials I could recommend at the moment. Yeah, it's basically looking at the specification. There are some GitHub repositories which you can look at how to implement the xAPI trackers, but the bandwidth of yeah, good trackers and bad trackers is really big. So for example, the semantic interoperability, when you talk about that, in xAPI you have to take, or you should take semantics into account as well. So these URIs we are talking about, which identify the, for example, the verb or the object, they should carry some information what is behind the URI. And there exist vocabularies for that, official vocabularies, and specialized vocabularies, for example, for serious gaming. Most of them you can find on GitHub, and there is an official xAPI vocabulary. It's called registry, is online as well when it works. So the point is, when you start implementing xAPI into your own systems, then look at the really have a deep look at the specification, have a deep look at the examples at GitHub, and have a look, of course, at these registries. That would be my recommendation. And if there are any questions, do not hesitate to contact us, me or my Fraunhofer colleagues, for example.
Okay, thank you. We are almost at the end because I have to keep my times rather precise. One last question, probably. centralized common platforms, centered on what or who, data hosted and processed by who resolves commercial conflicts?
I think that's a question for me as well, right? Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Centered on what and who. I understand the what. Where is it hosted, right? And typically, in our case, this CLM, for example, it's hosted on our infrastructure. But as I talked before, this can be hosted locally or in the cloud. You can also have it deployed locally, and it should be deployed at a central accessible server instance. So the scenario is not that you have it completely locally and isolated just on the local host. It should be part of a network. And the person who is then involved in hosting would be the IT admin. And then this is the important part, and this is a good question. We have this data privacy thing, and the data which is then submitted, or which flows through that central platform, this middleware, could be personal information.
Okay. Thank you. Can we switch to your breakout rooms now? Because I have the next session coming up and want to be precise on my time. Okay. So thank you very much again to my speakers, Alex Streicher and Wolfgang Prinz, both from Fraunhofer. As I mentioned before, you will have the chance to meet them in the breakout rooms. If you click on the Get Together tab, they will be available for further discussions right now. So this is a particularity of this session hier. Okay, ich sage es nochmal auf Deutsch. Wenn Sie mit den Referenten noch detailliert diskutieren wollen, gehen Sie bitte jetzt in die Get-Together-Räume. Wir fahren hier fort gleich mit der nächsten Session. Herzlichen Dank nochmal, Alex. Herzlichen Dank, Herr Kollege Streicher, fürs Mitmachen bei der LearnTech. Und wir sehen uns spätestens bei der nächsten Veranstaltung. Danke sehr.
Danke allen zusammen. Tschüss.
Tschüss.